Alright, so I'm on a job here to fix an aggregate driveway. This driveway, I guess, has been here quite some time, but we just had some torrential downpours, flash flooding over the past week, and this thing got carved out good. Actually, underneath this area right here is a apron, an asphalt apron, which is all covered with material. So the goal here will be to repair this and improve it so this doesn't happen again. As you can kind of see from the current layout, the center of this driveway is really low, and there's no crown on it and no management of any water coming in from the sides or the top. So it ends up getting all the water carving right through the center, which was really exacerbated with the flash flooding. You can see we have like a good foot deep hole going up the center. The goal here will be to do some better water management. So based on looking at a lot of the shedding of water and the pitches and just how a lot of debris has been left, it basically looks like the majority of this water was shedding down from this top of the hill right into the center of the driveway around here, as the rest of the driveway looks pretty good up until this point. So my plan is to import some loam on the sides here, berm that up a bit better, get some seeding on it, and help redirect water and basically water bar it before it hits the driveway. And then on either side, all the way up and through, I plan on swaling it out, lining it with riprap or erosion stone, basically, so when it catches that water from either the end, or if it does torrentially downpour so bad and it berms over, it catches it up here. And that'll help bring all that water down on either side of the driveway to the end. And then in the center, I'm gonna build it back up with some 3/4 inch dense grade, and then they would like some asphalt millings to top the whole thing off. So ultimately it'll lift the center of the driveway, get a crown on it, provide some swale runoff on the sides, or lined with erosion stone so it won't get any runoff, or at least help hopefully minimize any of it, especially during torrential downpours. And then up here it'll help provide a bit better of a barrier from letting that much water even enter the driveway, and hopefully let it soak in on the smaller rains, and on the larger rains it'll help berm and direct it into the appropriate locations rather than just cutting directly into the driveway and carving out the sides of it. And then further up here they have a parking space in front of the garage. All of this is just 3/4 stone, and I'm going to go through, clean it up some, and then we're going to line it all with asphalt millings at the same time. So basically a whole driveway restoration here. So the first order of business, before I can get any materials here, it's also the weekend, is to pull in all of these excess materials that are just sitting around the edges, and help reform the base of the driveway here to get rid of this huge rut, so that I can have material delivered and packed in on top. And at the same time I'll be digging out these swales so they're ready to be lined with erosion stone once I get that. All right, that pretty much gets the swales partially cut out on both sides, pull some of the material into the center, and sort of starts my setup of the base here. There is, of course, a bit of grass and a little bit of topsoil in here, but there's just so much rock and everything else in it that I'm going to pack it in and put a couple more inches of stone base over it, then a couple more inches of milling, so it'll all be good. So right now I'm going to go grab the skid steer so that I can just grade all this out and pack it in as best as I can, and try and pull out some of these little roots as I go along. Down here I did find the apron coming into the driveway. However, it is broken right here, and the thing swales down. It's hard to see on camera, but it dips down pretty hard, so it's not the easiest transition to go into. So what I'm going to do is just peel up this apron, and then it'll allow me to get a nice good pack of base material in here versus just trying to skim coat the top of this and having it wash out. And just like that, the skid steer is here. Luckily this is about 5 minutes from my house, so it's pretty easy to go back and forth to get stuff. So let's take this and smooth out this material here and hopefully get this base kind of set up and ready for some loads to be dropped. Alright, got this top parking area graded off, pulled back some off the concrete there so I can basically just top coat this area with millings, get a couple inches on there. And then as for the rest of the driveway, I was able to grade it out fairly decently with what we had here. Lifted up this bend right here a bit and filled in the whole center. It's really that I just need some more base material plus millings, which will get me that berm, creating the swale on this side, because it's just everything's so low in the center here that I'm fighting the tree roots and the grade to really make it happen. So like down here is kind of the more example of what I'm looking to get the final grade at, where we have like a nice fairly gentle slope off into the side swales, while keeping the driveway higher than it. It's just a matter of getting a bit more material to make up the grade changes. Alright, so got a couple loads of material delivered here. 3 loads of 3/4 inch minus and then a load of loam at the top. So I'm going to use this stuff to further lift the base up and around the corner. So when I had the truck come up through here, we got like an inch of rain yesterday. So some of this was pretty soft. Right here was pretty hard, almost all the way up to these 2 trees here. And then of course all the stuff that was really loose and kind of the more mixed material, it just squished right out. So I'm going to try to build all this up and integrate more of this 3/4 inch minus in there to bind it. Because like up here on this corner where I had spread out some more of the stone and everything, it bound up pretty nicely and we really didn't get too much rutting. It was just on those exclusively dirt portions. All right, pretty tough to film that because this driveway is so long and has a curve in it, and the way those piles were placed, it's like I couldn't really get a good plowing motion going on. So anyway, though, it turned out pretty good here. I got a pretty decent rounding to it, like with a bit of a crown in the center. And the most important part is that this whole section right here, I lifted almost a good foot, really. When you look at this side here, how much extra I have to the ground, because this was pretty much just scraping right where the previous driveway was. So lifting this whole corner and getting the pitch off both sides, and really the pitch this way so that nothing is going to come up over the road. The other thing too is one thing that would be nice to have for projects like this would be a larger roller or a vibratory roller for the skid steer, just to get that extra bit of compaction. Since this isn't really like a real road, it doesn't have any standards or specs, it's just a residential gravel driveway, I feel comfortable enough just running the machine, tracking it in, especially with the heavy bucket. It really puts it on the idlers of the machine, so a lot of weight right on the front. So this is hardened up pretty good. I guess the test will be to see how much we rut out when the other trucks come through, but that's like 35-ton trucks, not really going to be averaging on this road all the time, so it's not my main concern. But this stuff definitely hardened it up real good. All right, back a few days later, and I just had a load of millings dropped off. He got here before me, but as we can see, he drove up this road, and there really wasn't too much compaction. You know, maybe about a ½ inch here and there. Probably the most compaction will be in this area here. But you can see right here there was a little bit of rutting, but I mean overall, for what I did, this is a pretty good amount of compaction. So I'm pretty happy with that, and we'll get to start spreading this out so I can keep up with him delivering me piles. Start at the top here and work our way down. probably gonna be back pretty soon, but I'm trying to get the erosion stone out of my trailer right now. So I'm gonna start just taking it right out of the trailer with the excavator and putting it in the sides where I've already put the millings so that I'm not just spilling it over the top of those. And then once he comes back, I'll have him drop the pile here, and then hopefully I can pull up the apron out of that and put it right in the trailer. But it's all a timing nightmare, so. All right, so I just dumped out the little bit left in the trailer since it fit in this spot here. I'll just shuffle that to the sides. since it'll be way more efficient to get another trailer load to finish up the top and then down here. So now I'll swap to the digging bucket and rip this stuff out. All right, that gets that pipe nice and covered up. I'm gonna trim this end on the left down some more. I figured I'd just leave it long while I was putting it in so that this trench right here matches up with the end of it. But the other end looks good, dug it out some. I just have to come back through with the excavator to clean up the excess piles that fell in the swales right here. And then put in some wrap stone. So I'm gonna go dump that asphalt, get some more stone, and then come and clean up these edges here. And then we'll be on to doing the loam up there. All right, that gets that all seeded, strawed, graded out some. So regrading this kind of helps redistribute where the water's coming in and slow it down before it hits that edge. Gives a little bit of a berm and helps more of it soak in here until you get a torrential downpour, and it's just going to go over no matter what. All right, so before I finish the final cleanup and everything, the client asked me if I could level out these wood chips over here as best as possible, so I'll give that a go. These things are pretty tough to level and they're going to be really mucky underneath, I bet, so we'll kind of see how that goes. well, that's pretty much as level as I can get it. It's just that stuff gets so spongy, you'll never get it level, and then the sticks grab all the wood chips and make clumps, so it is what it is. All right, just gonna run a final compaction over all this just to get the top all set in, and this should be good. I was able to get everything graded out, shaped up pretty nicely, and then compacted, and I think it's looking good. This upper parking area is has its natural slope coming right down through here off into the grass, and then we have the driveway going out, which has a little bit of a bump up on it so that water won't go down it, and then it crowns off to either side. And then then I reshaped the lawn space up here so that it won't go right down into the driveway base, and it'll hopefully soak up some more of the water that's incoming, and if not, it'll hit the little berm and go down into the swale. And then on either side, I lined these swales with erosion stone. This will help with diffusing the water, slowing it down, and of course removing the erosion that happens once it starts picking up speed down the hill. So there hopefully should be no more water issues. I lifted this driveway quite a bit. I'd say I lifted this corner particularly about a foot, and really made sure that it was defined on the edges so that water doesn't come up and onto it, and it slopes off either side so water will get off of it. And then the final thing that I did was I passed over the whole thing with the compactor. Really, it would be ideal to have a real roller or even a roller attachment for the skid steer, but since I really don't do too many big driveway installs like this, I just haven't justified buying it. This was just a happenstance of the job, and I didn't have the time to go rent the vibratory roller for the skid steer, so I just made do with the plate compactor, and I think honestly it was fine. I mean, the reality is that plate compactor gets, you know, 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches of compaction, but I didn't really need it so much for the compaction depth on this as much as just locking in that top layer on this asphalt millings. And that'll help this top layer from getting spun out as quickly or run off with any water, and just help it really bind up better versus just leaving it as it was, kind of scuffed up and back dragged. So it still leaves a nicer finish, and there's no track marks, and it's nice and smooth for water to make it off of. Then of course down here I put in a small culvert pipe to help catch anything that comes down this swale and down the road, help not wash out any of the millings at the base of the driveway. This got lifted a whole bunch too, so there's no longer a dip. And then over here the pipe comes out, of course, with a bit of a diffusion pad to help dissipate the water as it comes out. So I'm really happy with the outcome on this, considering it is an aggregate driveway. It does almost look like it's paved, and I think it's going to work out for them very well. Now of course I know everybody has their own opinions on how these things should be done, what type of stone should be used underneath, how much stone should fabric be used, how many different types of fabric or stone should be used, how thick each layer should be, how you should compact it, whatever. And I think it really just depends on where you're located, as well as the conditions of the location you're at. For this, there was already a very hard base underneath it, and then adding extra dense grade road base effectively underneath it helped really tighten it up. As we could see with the 35-ton triaxle going over it, there was basically no compaction, and all I did was just roll over it with the track loader and a loaded bucket. So considering this is a residential driveway for a little parking lot and a garage, the expectation is regular SUVs, cars, trucks, with the occasional maybe delivery vehicle. So it'll definitely hold up for that, and it'll hold up for a 35-ton delivery if need be. So I'm always willing to learn and take notes and everything like that, but both I and the customer are happy with how this came out, and I don't foresee it having any major issues other than regular aggregate driveway maintenance. And if there is, then I'll come back and fix it. Really, his toughest battle is going to be plowing in the winter, and we discussed that before we even did the project, but it's really a lose-lose for any aggregate style driveway. And you really just have to be aware of the time of year, if everything's frozen or not, and then where you're pushing the material, because you will scrape up material no matter what. So it's just a game of maintenance, unfortunately, but it's certainly a lot cheaper than getting it paved. All right, we are getting torrential rain right now. Just coming back over to the driveway project here. There were like 2 spots on either side that were just carving into the driveway a little bit, so I corrected those real fast. What it came down to is there was just enough of fines mixed in with those riprap to build it up, so the water just found its way into the corners of the driveway right here on either side. The middle has stayed fine, and really what I'm contending with is these trees. Because these trees are here and these roots are here, they push all the water right out into the road at these spots. So I just had to pull all the rapstone back on the side here, because it was just causing it to slow down way too much and bump out. So right now it's capturing it all really good. The center of the road looks really good. We've had like 2 downpours like this, and if this part erodes over, so eventually this part over here will erode more, and then some of this rapstone can be pulled into that once it's low enough that it's going to allow that flow. But for the moment, I mean, there is some level of sediment that's making it down no matter what, but it isn't huge pieces of driveway that's coming out of here. It's mostly just some sediment. And over here we can see that the pipe hasn't gotten overloaded yet. It's mainly just as much as it can accept coming down. And then the front of the driveway looks good, and we are pouring out this side. So I think this thing will get better as time goes on, of course, as the channels make their ways down the swales. And you know, if anything comes up again, I'm more than happy to correct any mistakes that come up. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. It's held up really well. It's just those 2 sides that got channeled in a bit, and I tamped them back in, and it seems like even with that inch we had over the past 30 minutes, it held up good. So it's really rare that we ever get this much rain. So I'm happy to see that it is working as intended.